Overview. We've learned about prompting dogs into positions like sit, down, and heel. Prompting is one way to build simple behavior that can be rewarded. Another way to create more complex behavior is through shaping. This module will outline the definition of shaping, when to use shaping, the steps of shaping, and the importance of timing when shaping. Learning objectives. By the end of this module, students will 1. Recall the definition of shaping, 2. Apply the concept of shaping to dog behavior, 3. Define chaining, 4. Define task analysis, and 5. Describe how to use chaining. Learning activities. Required readings, B&B Chapter 11 and 12, and Donaldson Chapter 5. Required videos will be attached to the description, and discussion and Module 2.2 reading quiz. Shaping. This module will cover the definition and application of using shaping as a technique to build new behavior. We will also cover the key factors when it comes to dog training, including timing, cueing, and when to add the verbal. Shaping. Defined. Shaping is used to establish a new behavior. Shaping is a training process that reinforces successive approximations to the desired behavior, which in turn gets the individual dog closer to a new desired behavior. Think of shaping as gradually massaging the dog's behavior closer and closer to the target or goal behavior. Why do we use shaping? Shaping is used when we are training complex behaviors such as turning on a light, pulling a rope to open a door, and picking up an object. These behaviors are more than a simple position, therefore prompting alone is not sufficient to teach them. The process of shaping reinforces the dog for the small movements that are on the way to the goal behavior. For example, when training a dog to pick up a dropped item, shaping may begin when the dog first simply looks in the direction of the item, then moving closer to the item or touching it with their nose, then biting or mouthing the item, and finally picking the item up. The yes or clicker plus a food treat reinforces the small behaviors in the beginning using a continuous reinforcement schedule. As the dog becomes efficient at performing the small behavior, we move to a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement. As we know, a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement will lead to a behavior that is resistant to extinction. When we stop reinforcing for the small behavior, an extinction burst will occur, leading the dogs to engage in a more intense version of the small behavior. We can then catch this closer to the goal behavior and reward it on a continuous schedule, then on a variable ratio schedule, and repeat the process until the goal behavior is reached. Dog training equals shaping. Shaping is critical in dog training as it allows us to slowly build complex behavior. Shaping is also used as a form of behavior modification, technically called desensitization, in which a feared item or situation is slowly presented while encouraging relaxation in a presence. The intensity of the featured stimulus is gradually increased until the goal behavior relaxation in the presence of the entire stimulus is achieved. Examples of shaping. Meet Teddy, who is a puppy being shaped to enter his kennel. Pay attention to the precise timing of when he is being reinforced. Why do you think the owner is throwing the treats far away from the kennel instead of handing him the treat in front of the kennel? Say hello to Annie, a puppy being introduced to the light board. Again, how accurate is the timing when she performs the accurate behavior? How are her treats being delivered to her for reinforcement? Steps in shaping. These are steps in shaping and should be followed in the order listed. To begin with, you always want to identify the desired behavior: dress, light, kennel. After the behavior is chosen, you must identify your conditioned reinforcer, for example, a clicker or yes. When starting to shape, reinforce the beginning response, no matter how small the response is, even if it's just looking at the kennel. Continue on with shaping by reinforcing closer approximations to the desired behavior. Remember, you can get those closer behaviors by using the variable ratio schedule and then placing the current behavior on extinction. When you begin to reinforce closer approximations to the desired behavior, the dog will understand and learn what you are asking from them. For example, after constant successful steps of the dog sniffing the kennel, remove both the reinforcer and treat from the situation and wait. Believe it or not, the dog is learning when they aren't getting reinforced. After a couple moments of nothing, the dog will more than likely proceed to a closer step leading to the kennel, i.e., placing a paw in the kennel. This is the extinction burst and is the reason that shaping is effective. Physical prompting. It is important to remember to not add a physical prompt when shaping a new command. Once a dog has learned the behavior you are shaping, it is okay to use a physical prompt to help them perform if they fail to do so on the verbal cue. When you use the physical prompt while shaping, the dog gets focused on following your hand, which makes it more difficult to learn a complex task. Shaping is letting the dog learn the desired behavior at their own speed. Prompting a dog into a desired behavior doesn't help the dog learn the command. It just trains them to follow your finger for their reinforcement. However, if your dog is distracted by something else or not entirely motivated, it is okay to tap or move the desired object. Tapping the desired object does not prompt the dog to do the behavior. Instead, it makes the object look more appealing, and the dog is more likely to interact with something that is interesting. Adding the verbal. Don't introduce the verbal cue at the beginning of the shaping process. Why do you think that the verbal cue shouldn't be added in the beginning? When the dog is responding well enough to the new object, for example, not fearful, not showing signs of stress, walking directly into the kennel/cape, then begin to add the verbal cue so the dog can begin to understand that the command is another antecedent for the action, which in turn will lead to a performance of the wanted command. Continuing on, after multiple success trials at one step, stop rewarding the dog for that step. Monitor the dog for any action closer to the desired behavior. Dogs are learning when they are not being reinforced, so be patient. If the dog fails at a level of shaping, return to an easier step. Timing is key. Make sure your conditioned reinforcer is given at the exact moment. A second late/early can impact shaping. Dog falls behind and gets confused. Important to remember. Change the form of behavior, whine to a bark, look to a touch. Never push a dog beyond its limits. Don't move too quickly. Go with the dog. Move through in small steps. Timing is key. Make sure your conditioned reinforcer is given at the exact moment. Reinforce the success at each step continuously at first, and then variably.